This video is about the demand and supply in rail transport in Malaysia. Passenger demand in rail transport Malaysia. Rail transport in Malaysia comprises of heavy rail, including high-speed rail, light rail transit, mass rapid transit, monorail and a funicular railway line which also called as cable car rail system. KTM commuter. KTM commuter carries about 64,000 passengers daily, 61% of whom are young people between 19 and 29. It is also carrying increasingly more white-collar passengers than when it started. KL Central, Kuala Lumpur, Sabang Jaya, Bank Negara, Serdang, Seremban, and Kajang stations have high ridership because they are either in densely populated residential areas or are situated close to government offices or commercial buildings. KL Central is the biggest connecting station where passengers can transfer between LRT, ERL and intercity trains. Light Rail Transit, LRT. There are two LRT systems in KL, Star LRT and Putra LRT. The Star LRT service frequency ranges from one train every 3 minutes during peak hours to one train every 10 minutes at other times. The capacity is 33,200 passengers in each direction per hour. Currently, the Star LRT carries about 92,000 passengers each day. The Putra LRT capacity was 10,000 passengers in each direction per hour using 35 two-car trains. The service frequency is between 2.9 and 3.3 minutes during peak hours and between 5 and 10 minutes at other times. It carries about 150,000 passengers each day. Express Rail Link, ERL. KLIA Express provides non-stop high-speed services between Kuala Lumpur City Air Terminal and KLIA. Trains depart from both terminals every 15 minutes from 5 o'clock to 1 o'clock with a journey time of 28 minutes. They have a seating capacity of 156 passengers per 4-car train. The KLIA Transit is a fast commuter service operating between both terminals with additional stops at Bandar Tasik Selatan, Putrajaya and Salak Tinggi. It runs every 30 minutes during peak hours and the journey time is 35 minutes. The trains can carry 540 people including standing passengers. Monorail. The round-trip time is 39 minutes assuming station standing times of 20 seconds and a 30-second turnaround at the terminus. Therefore, the system can operate at a headway of 2.5 minutes. Each car has 24 seats and each two-car train can carry 107 people. Passenger supply in rail transport Malaysia. Nowadays, there exists a large number of alternative means of transport. For a given service can construct a merit order in terms of speed. But most vehicles incur a strong discontinuity at the origin because of technical or legal reasons or because of the topological characteristics of the networks on which they operate. Rail transport can be a substitute for cars, buses or aircraft, or even for inland waterways depending on the distance and on the characteristics of the initial and final nodes. But although they may be to some extent comparable on the demand side, these different modes are very different in respect of both technical and economic properties. For instance, rail transport is highly capital intensive by comparison with most other modes. This arises from the high cost of acquisition, installation and maintenance of tracks and stations, as well as the cost of acquisition, operation and maintenance of the rolling stock. Historically, all firms have been multi-product suppliers. That is, suppliers of all the rail services. This makes it difficult to estimate costs of providing particular services because of the arbitrariness of allocation of the common cost components. As well as because, historically speaking, infrastructure and operations were often not even distinguished. Demand makes supply. Because of the increasing of demand, our country have also increasing the supply for rail transport. Freight demand in rail transport Malaysia. Rail freight is Malaysia's second largest freight mode, catering for 2.2% of the total freight mix in 2017. Due to the large production and export of commodities such as ores and processed steel products, Malaysia's rail network caters for a large volume of goods. In addition, the steady domestic and international demand for Malaysia's agricultural products keeps rail freight demand elevated. Rail freight also benefits from inter-regional trade and high-quality infrastructure domestically and regionally. It is expected that rail freight will increase its percentage of the overall freight volume. In the third industrial master plan, it targets the cargo volume by railway freight to be almost five-fold, from 4 million tons in 2005 to 18.6 million tons in 2020. The realized transport freight demand expressed in ton-kilometer can increase for two reasons. 1. The growth in the volumes of freight being carried. This is an outcome of growth in population, production, consumption, and income, which is illustrative of aggregate demand. 2. The growth in the average distance over which freight are being carried. Outsourcing, offshoring, economic specialization and suburbanization are all relevant factors behind this trend. Freight supply in rail transport Malaysia. Freight train in Malaysia largely consist of container trains. But there were some occasional fuel, chemical, and cement train running around the network. And all of them acted as a land bridge to transfer the containers between the ports, mostly from southern Port Johor Bahru to Butterworth in far north. To match the growing demand of rail freight in Malaysia, plans are implemented to increase the efficiency of the rail freight transport in Malaysia to meet the market demand. In 2016, the government proposed a Rm9 billion plan to build new electrified double-track rail to transport freight that will pass the Klang Valley. The plan is to have new rail connections that would divert the trains from three areas, namely Serendar, Port Klang and Seremban. The plan is expected to enhance rail connectivity and promote port development to serve the future needs of rail freight transport. The project would be broken up in two phases over a period of 5 years. The first phase involves the Serendar Port Klang track that covers 70 kilometers that got this off the ground in 2016 and ready in 2018. Under Phase 2, the government plans to extend the rail line from Port Klang to Seremban involving an alignment of 66 kilometers to be completed by 2021. Because priority is given to passenger services, there is limited slot for freight trains. The new freight track can be solving the limited slot problem. In the other hand, dangerous cargo can be diverted away from the city. Industry sources estimate that KTMB will have the capacity to carry 20 million tons of cargo by 2035 with the proposed new cargo lines.